Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. So, I will keep this as brief as I can because the sun's beating down and it's quite comfortable to sit in, and I don't want all my lovely records to warp. So, what am I going to be talking about today is this Tubular Bells Mike Oldfield 50th Anniversary Edition. Now, you know, Tubular Bells, it really doesn't need an introduction. It's probably, up there like Dark Side of the Moon, just one of those early 70s landmark recordings that just caught the general public's imagination and shot Mike Oldfield into megastardom, to be honest. I would have been 7 or something like that at the time. 7, 8, something like, I can't remember exactly. I'm sure, no, I'd have been 9, I think. So I'm sure that I can remember Mike Oldfield appearing on Blue Peter, which was a UK children's programme of that kind of era, and possibly Tomorrow's World, which was a UK sort of science programme, but basically with his, this was one of the, multi-tracking had only recently come into the studio recording world, but for someone to sort of put a whole album together with just sort of, recording a track, bouncing it onto another track, backwards and forwards. Mike Oldfield played gazillion instruments on this. In fact, if I read out the list, just side 1, Mike Oldfield plays grand piano, glockenspiel, Farfisser organ, bass guitar, electric guitar. It lists here speed guitar, but according to the master of ceremonies, that'll be double speed guitar. Taped motor drive amplifier organ chord, whatever one of those is. Mandolin-like guitar, fuzz guitars, assorted percussion, assorted guitars, flageolet, honky-tonk, Lowry organ, tubular bells. There are a couple of instruments that Mike doesn't play. Basically, the flutes played by someone called John Field, the string bass by Lindsay Cooper, and the drums on side 2. I don't know if it's also the drums on side 1. Are there any drums on side 1? Good question. Steve Broughton. So nearly the whole album is played and recorded by Mike Oldfield, going, multi-tracking, going back, redubbing over and over and over again. All analog, no fancy trickery. This is the sort of thing you could do on a computer now in your bedroom quite easily. But this guy back then, there's a beautiful picture of him here on the inside of this cover. He played all these instruments, all these analog instruments, himself properly by hand, and recorded them and mixed the thing together, or played over what he'd already recorded, adding another line each time. And it's an amazing, instrumental 20-minute or so work of art that's kind of, one of the closest things to classical in popular music. Quite an amazing achievement, and really quite beautiful. Now, I just want to go back to my original because, like an awful lot of you, you'll have had this for decades and decades and decades. Now, to be perfectly honest, this isn't an absolute original. This is what you would refer to as a second pressing, I believe a 1974 pressing. The difference being the label on the original, just for the first year, was monotone, black and white, and then they went to full colour in 74. And the matrix number on mine reads V2001A4U, that kind of, it's B3U on the other side, incidentally. Excuse that helicopter just going over. I've got all the doors and windows open to cool down, so outside noises will be a little louder today. Anyway, that's my original, which is what I use for reference, obviously. And here's the new one. So, why have I got this? Well, to be perfectly honest, last weekend was the Northwest Audio Show here in the UK, and I went up there and bumped into my friend David Brooke, and he said, "Oh, mate, you should try this," and just gave it to me. So thanks, David. Really grateful for that. And so I thought I'd give you a little review. So, it's a double album. What's it all about? Well, the first album is the 1973 original mix, but it's been half-speed mastered here at Abbey Road Studios. I believe the Abbey Road half-speed mastering process actually involves some digitisation, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Feel free to comment down below if you know better than me, but I believe it is. Anyway, it's the record one. It is the original album, just in its original mix, just remastered, and that's kind of quite interesting. And I'll get on to the description of that and discussion of the sound in just a moment. Record 2 is some other stuff, basically. So we've got side 1, Tubular Bells 4 intro, which is a 2017 demo. And I mean, you can hear it's a newer performance and a newer recording, but it's kind of like a bit of a mishmashy best of the Tubular Bells. So if that's the kind of thing you want, then, you know, great. And then you've got Tubular Bells, the opening music for the 2012 Olympic Games, which again is kind of like a, you know, again, it's a modern recording. You can hear that in the you know, the bass weight and everything, and the depth and the fullness and the colour of the sound. But it's a different, you know, it's a new performance. It's a different mix and everything else. And interestingly enough, apart from the bass, everything else seems a little distant. Side 2, we've got Tubular X, which again, I'm not entirely certain what it is, but it sounds like Tubular Bells and the X-Files kind of mashed up together. Again, you know, it might appeal to some, but it's not really something that particularly floated my boat. And then we've got Tubular Bells, the Mike Oldfield and York remix. Now, I'll have to look this guy's up. So the York here referred to is someone called Torsten Stenzel, and I think that this was done in 2013. I'm not 100% on that, but anyway, what that is a kind of a dancey sort of clubby remix of, you know, an excerpt from Tubular Bells. And compared with all the other stuff on this record too, it's actually really quite good. It kind of reminds me of Left Field, or which I reviewed very recently, or you know, other good quality kind of, you know, 90s 2000s sort of dance music. It's pretty good, and for me that's the highlight of the record too. But you know, the rest of it's sort of, if you're an absolute Tubular Bells fan, I'm sure you'll go out and buy this, or probably already have it, frankly. You know, and I hope that you enjoy the stuff on that record too. Now, I'm going to put this record away in a minute out of the sun, but I just want to show you before I do. Okay, we've got this lovely picture of Mike here. This is interesting. We've got the original master here, interestingly enough, on BASF SM911 tape. And I don't know if you'd recognise that, but I certainly did. And there's another picture in here which shows the sticking to the cling film, shows the outside of the back of the outside of the box there. So the interesting thing here is, it's only interesting if you've recently had conversations with people about, oh yeah, but that box, that tape, they don't match, blah blah blah. This is clearly the original master of Tubular Bells, clearly in its original box. The tape is BASF SM911. The box is an Ampex box. personally, I just find that interesting because it perfectly illustrates that you know, just because a tape isn't in the box you might expect it to be, it doesn't mean it's not authentic. Anyway, I'm going to shut this up for now and just quickly run through the sound of it. So, how do they differ? Which is quite an interesting thing. So, I can't, you know, I won't describe Tubular Bells. It's you know, it's an album-long composition. Like I say, think of it as a classical composition. It's 2 pieces of music, each a side long, composed and 99% played by Mike Oldfield. It's very kind of, you know, it's a trip. It'll take you on a trip. It's a musical landscape and a world, and he plays you through that and that landscape unfolds in front of you. Now, I started off by playing the original again, and of course I've known it for 50 years. Obviously, this is the 50th anniversary. So, you know, I'm listening to it and you kind of think, well, it's a little bit sort of dated sounding in places. There's just the odd point where the piano might sound, or the sort of the mandolin type of sounds might sound a little thin and a little jangly. You know, possibly you could argue could have been slightly better mic'd up and better recorded, better EQ'd to that particular one track. But we're splitting hairs here because it kind of sounds like, if you think of, I don't know, Genesis or Yes albums or whatever of that era, it's absolutely beautiful, fantastic, 100% authentic, early 1970s UK prog. There's no question, and it sounds great. And you can hear exactly what Mike's done. You can hear all those layers where he's playing over the top, where he's playing one or two of those little lines. He's a little bit kind of wooden on in his timing because but at other times it just flows and rocks. And there's a real sense of the sort of the tension and the anticipation before elements in his composition. You know, bum 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 bum, and it holds you. It takes you on this musical journey that's really very, very beautiful. And as I say, the only thing you could possibly criticise it for is, you know, Mike plays, I don't know what, 50 different musical instruments or something daft, and he's not the world's greatest at some of them. But he's blooming proficient. He really is. Don't get me wrong. This is not, you know, there is no question. You know, he's not the greatest guitarist the world's ever seen. But he didn't claim to be. What he has done is probably made the greatest constructed piece of music performed by, you know, with a small amount of exception. Like I mentioned, the bass player and the flautist, one person, using sort of multi-tracking, overlaying techniques. It's a stunning piece of work, absolutely stunning, staggering, and 50 years on, it's absolutely timeless. Just to say, the slightest kind of little feeling of sort of a loss of colour, maybe in certain areas of certain instruments, noticeably sort of pianos and harmoniums and things like that, harpsichords, and that really isn't a criticism. It gives it, you know, it sets it in its time, which is quite lovely. Now, what have they done with the new one? Well, they haven't remixed it. It's just been remastered. Like I say, half-speed remastered at Abbey Road. And you put it on and straight away it's clearly different. It's kind of richer and it's fuller. And your first thought might be, oh, that's kind of quite nice. And my first thought was, oh, that's kind of quite nice. And you as it plays and it unfolds, you sort of start to realise that what they've done, it's been filled in. It's kind of been plumped up. Like I said, in the areas where the original might sound slightly thin, they've kind of plumped it up. But, you know, they haven't re-recorded it. They haven't remixed it. They've just plumped it up, and it just sounds a little bit artificial and a bit, where the original gets busy, and there's plenty of places where it does get busy, because I don't know how many tracks might be, I think probably at that point in time 8 track was the most tracks you could get on the tape recorder. But if that's the case, he would have bounced it and overdubbed it, so you've got 16 or whatever. I'm not entirely certain on that. But for argument's sake, say there was 8 or 16, there might be that many different elements all playing together over one over the other. On the original, you can kind of clearly hear exactly what he's done, and that kind of makes it even more impressive. And it's sort of on here, they've kind of plumped up things here and there, but it just, the kind of trend amongst modern, teenagers and older girls and all this for big fat lips where they put lip fillers in and all that kind of stuff. It just feels a bit like that. It's kind of, they've puffed it up to make it sort of superficially a bit more kind of something, but it just sounds a little bit fat, and you can't increase resolution and clarity by puffing something up. All you can do is puff it up, and it's just, that's how it feels. It's not horrible. You might prefer it because it is a sort of a rounder, more full, more kind of colourful sound. But to me, it loses its integrity, and it loses, I think the most critical thing is it loses that sense of, Mike's, if you imagine Mike sat there and he's laid down, I don't know what order he did the tracks in, but let's say he did sort of piano first, and then bass, and then acoustic guitar or something, and and you think, right, okay, he's playing back, he's got his headphones on, he's playing back piano, bass, and he's got that sort of anticipation of where it's going, and he's following it, and it's just, and you can feel that, with every line that he's putting in, and it makes that half an hour, the 2 20-minute lumps of a musical journey, to sit there for 20 minutes of one track, of instrumental track on a musical journey, you need your attention held. You need to be held and entertained and inspired and sort of, given some juice, so to speak. And you get that by the essence of the guy's composition and his intent and his playing, and you get that sort of as it's you know what's coming because you've heard it so many times, but you feel the anticipation and then the release when it comes. And if it's a bit thin compared with the puffed up one, so be it. That's what it is, how it sounds, and it lifts you with that jubilant sort of feeling. Whereas the other one's just artificial. Like I said, it's like it's got, it's had lip fillers put in and false eyelashes and a load of makeup slapped on it. It's, it's kind of more polished. If you think that's more authentic or more pleasant to listen to, that really is personal taste. But it took me 2 or 3 listens back and forth to kind of really kind of nail down what was going on and what I was listening to. But after a couple of listens backwards and forwards, it really struck out that actually it's and it actually brought tears to my eyes, to be honest. But it's the intent and the design and the emotion and the anticipation and the passion of the original that's kind of been, airbrushed over, photoshopped over, sort of photo enhance, put some slap on, that kind of thing that's been done to the new one. You may prefer it, you may not. It's I don't personally prefer it, but it's not a vastly expensive album. It was £35. You get 2 records in here. The Mike Oldfield and York remix on side 2. It's a completely different thing. It's, you know, it's 2000-ish kind of dance music, but it's actually really, really kind of satisfying, thoroughly enjoyable. The Tubular X, it was, you know, yeah, it's just, to my ears, it's a bit, I mean, it's a similar thing. It's kind of some sort of strange remixy thing, but to me, it just smacks too much of the X-Files, and I don't quite know what's going on. You know, it's a beautiful piece of music. The original was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful composition. I personally don't have a great urge to hear beautiful things that are done perfectly the first time round, remixed and redone and revisited. Yeah, the Mike Oldfield and York remix on disc 2 is it's fun, definitely fun. I will play that again. The original recording, which is sides 1 and 2, it kind of sounds impressive. It definitely doesn't sound as dated as the original, but I happen to love early 70s prog. I mean, I really love it. So to me, it's kind of lost some of that original charm. But the main thing is it's lost that original passion for me. Actually, it's quite funny. I've you know, my original is pretty old. It's got a fair few pops and clicks on it. And it got me thinking, well, I think actually I might just go out and find myself a new original. Well, a new old original, if you see what I mean. But also, I'm hoping to do an investigation into ultrasonic record cleaning machines in the next few weeks. And I just thought that would be a perfect one to pull out and see how much of that noise, additional noise, I can get shot of with you know, investigating new cleaners. So there we go. Tubular Bells, Mike Oldfield, 50th anniversary edition. Think of it as I don't know. No, I won't say that. I'll cut that bit out. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click the like. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.